We didn't talk again. Not once. Sometimes I'd type a message and delete it before sending. Sometimes I'd pick up the phone and put it back down. Sometimes I'd replay her laughter in my head and then remind myself why this happened. Then, one evening, as I was locking up at work, her old best friend Sana came to see me. She crossed her arms, leaned against my car, and looked me dead in the eyes. "I know what you did," she said. My stomach dropped. The swap documents, the fake visa, everything. My hands felt like ice. "How?" She told me everything. She knew she didn't make a mistake. She knew you were the only one with access to her papers. My heartbeat echoed in my ears. I didn't have a defense. I didn't have an excuse. Sana took a slow breath. "I'm not here to expose you. I'm not here to punish you. I'm just here to tell you something she won't say herself." I braced. "She still loves you." He blinked. "Hard. She knows she hurt you. She knows she destroyed your trust. But what you did, it didn't make her hate you. It made her realize how deep your pain must have been." I swallowed, my throat dry. Sana's voice softened. "She forgives you. That's why I came. So you can learn to forgive yourself." And just like that, she walked away, leaving me standing in a dim parking lot with nothing but the echo of a truth I hadn't expected. She had moved on, but she had left the door of forgiveness open behind her. I didn't go back to her. She didn't come back to me. But something changed. I learned that revenge may feel satisfying for a moment, but it always takes more than it gives. It takes your peace, your sleep, your reflection in the mirror. And in the end, you stand, staring at a victory that doesn't feel like winning. Some stories don't end with reunion. Some don't end with regret either. Some simply end with lessons. And mine was this. When someone breaks you, healing doesn't come from breaking them back. It comes from rebuilding the part of yourself that allowed their betrayal to destroy you. That's how my story ends. Not with triumph, not with revenge, but with understanding that hurting someone who hurt you may feel like justice. But true closure is the quiet moment when you learn to live without needing revenge at all. Then, thank you for calling. I needed this, even if it doesn't change anything. "It's okay," I said. "Sometimes closure is the only thing we can give each other." "Yeah," she whispered. Closure. Her breathing steadied, softer now. "Good night," she said. "Good night." The call ended, and the moment the line went silent, I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness, not regret, not relief. Something else. A quiet acceptance. A truth settling in. She wasn't the only one who needed closure. I needed it too. But I also needed honesty, not from her, but from myself. And the truth was, I had done something I couldn't undo. And eventually, someone would find out. Revenge doesn't end with the act. It ends with the accountability. And mine was coming. I could feel it. I remember the silence that fell over the apartment in those days after everything happened. It wasn't just quiet, it was hollow. Like the walls themselves were tired of carrying my secrets, her secrets, and the weight of what I'd done. I kept replaying it all in my mind, even though I didn't want to. Her crying at the airport. Her confusion. The moment immigration officers pulled her aside. The way she kept turning back, looking at me through the crowd. Like I could somehow fix what was happening. But I didn't move. I just stood there, my jaw clenched, my chest tight, my heart pounding so loud it felt like guilt had grown a heartbeat of its own. And then she vanished behind a glass door. I told myself she deserved it. I told myself betrayal had to be paid back. I told myself I was finally reclaiming my dignity. But that night, when I lay in the dark staring at the ceiling, I couldn't silence the truth that whispered, "You crossed a line you can't uncross." I exhaled slowly. The room felt colder. My chest felt heavier. My revenge had worked. Maybe too well. 3 days later, my phone rang. I froze when I saw the caller ID. It was her mother. I hesitated, thumb hovering over the screen, but something in me said, "Pick it up." Her voice was trembling. "Beta, what happened at the airport?" She came home crying, trembling. She won't eat. She won't talk. Please, you were the only one with her. Tell me what happened. My throat tightened. I wanted to lie. I wanted to say I didn't know. I wanted to say she made a mistake with her documents. But the guilt, it crawled up my spine. He swallowed hard. I don't know everything, I lied gently. But her visa was denied. Maybe they thought something was wrong with the paperwork. There was a long silence. Then the mother said something I wasn't ready for. She kept saying your name. My chest tightened. She kept saying she hurt you, that she broke something precious, and she can't forgive herself. I closed my eyes. I felt that one, deep, like a punch right to the ribs. That night, unable to sleep, I opened the drawer where her travel documents used to be. The real visa, the valid one, still sat there. Her photo, her smile, the hope in her eyes. All still trapped in a folder I hadn't touched since the night my anger made the decisions for me. I pulled it out. My hands trembled. I whispered into the empty room. What have I done? Because anger is loud. But guilt is patient. It waits. It follows. It whispers when the world is quiet. And that night, it whispered everything I'd been avoiding. A week later, she finally texted me. Just one line. Why did you let them take me? I stared at it for a long time. She didn't accuse me. She didn't curse me. She didn't expose me. She simply asked, why? Djupt, herost. Djuptage, herost. In the end, I wrote the truth, or as close to the truth as I could manage without destroying her completely. I was angry. I found out about your cheating. I felt betrayed. I didn't switch anything, but I didn't help you either. A half-truth. A covered truth. She replied after almost 10 minutes. I'm sorry. 2 simple words, but they broke me more than her betrayal ever did. Because it was the crack in her voice, even through text, that shook something inside me. She wasn't fighting. She wasn't defending herself. She wasn't even trying to win me back. She was broken. And part of that was because of me. 2 months passed. When I sent that message, we need to talk, I expected silence, or hesitation, or anger. What I didn't expect was how fast she replied. Not even 30 seconds later, my phone lit up. I've been waiting for that. When? I stared at the screen, thumb frozen, heart pounding a rhythm that didn't match the calm expression I tried to keep. There are moments in your life where the world feels like it's holding its breath for you, waiting to see what you'll do next. And this was one of those moments. I typed, tonight. Just a call? No yelling? Just truth. She responded, okay. That one word stretched across my chest like pressure I wasn't sure I was ready for. The hours leading up to that call felt longer than the past few days combined. I paced the living room, sat down, stood up again, walked to the kitchen, opened the fridge without knowing why, closed it. Every few minutes, I checked the time, even though it was moving painfully slow. Finally, when the clock hit 10 p.m., I sat on the edge of my bed, took a deep breath, and pressed the call button. It rang. Once, twice. Then she answered. Not with a greeting, just quiet, breathing on the other end, soft, uneven, like she'd been crying but didn't want me to know. I didn't speak at first either. Silence between 2 people who used to know each other better than they knew themselves, it's a strange thing. It's almost intimate, almost familiar. Finally, I said her name. She whispered mine back. Her voice cracked ever so slightly, and something in me tightened, not out of love, not out of longing, but out of the memory of who we used to be. I kept my voice steady. Before anything else, I need you to know I'm not calling to fight. She exhaled shakily. I don't want to fight either. Good, I said. Because we both did things we shouldn't have. A pause. A long one. Then she whispered, I know. I leaned back against the headboard, letting the quiet settle before I continued. You said you didn't cheat the way I thought, I said. But you still found someone else to talk to lean on. I did, she admitted softly. I was stupid. I was overwhelmed and I took the easy comfort instead of talking to you. But I never planned on leaving you. I just didn't know how to be honest when everything between us felt so fragile. I frowned. Why didn't you tell me before? Her voice broke. Because you were so excited about our future, the move, the plans, and I was scared to be the one to ruin it. I sighed, not loudly, not angrily, just tiredly. Keeping a secret ruins things more than confession ever could. I know that now, she whispered. Too late. There was a moment then, a quiet, heavy moment, where I almost told her. Almost said, I switched your visa documents. The truth hovered on my tongue like a confession fighting to be free. But I swallowed it. Not because I wanted to protect myself, but because I wasn't sure telling her would bring healing. Or destroy what little humanity we still owed each other. I ran a hand over my face. What happened at the airport? That wasn't your fault. She sucked in a breath. I keep thinking about it, over and over. One mistake and my whole life collapsed. I closed my eyes. Her life collapsed because of me. She didn't know that, but I did. She continued, voice trembling. They kept asking me questions I couldn't answer. They treated me like I was lying, like I was trying to sneak in. It was humiliating. Her words pierced through my chest. I imagined her standing there confused, scared, thinking it was a bureaucratic mix-up, when in reality, it was my revenge. My doing. My choices. My consequences. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to remain steady. I'm sorry you went through that. She laughed bitterly, not out of humor, but exhaustion. You're sorry? She repeated quietly. And I'm sorry. And somehow, it still hurts. It does, I admitted, for both of us. We fell into silence again. But this silence felt different. Not cold, not angry, just real, bare, human. She broke it first. Do you ever think we could have fixed things? She asked softly. The question hung in the air like a fragile lantern, glowing, vulnerable, waiting to be blown out. I answered honestly. I don't know. Maybe if we had talked sooner. Maybe if we hadn't lied to ourselves about how much we were hurting. She inhaled shakily. I miss you. I closed my eyes. My chest tightened. Not because I wanted her back, but because part of me, the part that loved her before the betrayal, remembered what it felt like to hold her hand, to plan a life together, to believe in something that wasn't built on secrets. I miss who we were, I said quietly, but not who we became. A long silence. Then she whispered, Fair. Another pause. I clicked it open. There it was. The proof of what I had done. The moment I swapped those pages, I told myself it was justice balancing scales she had tilted. But now, staring at the evidence, it felt less like justice and more like a confession I had written with my own hands. I closed the laptop quietly. Some truths are too sharp to stare at for long. The next morning, my body moved before my mind could catch up. I showered, dressed, and made breakfast, toast, eggs, coffee. Routine. Automatic. Like muscle memory trying to protect me from thinking too deeply. My phone buzzed around 1 a.m. Not her. Someone else. My friend Hamza. Bro. I heard what happened at the airport. She got deported? My heart dropped into my stomach. I hadn't told him. I hadn't told anyone. So, how did he... Another buzz? Her cousin posted about it. Said the visa got messed up, everyone's talking. I felt heat crawl up my neck, the kind that doesn't come from embarrassment, but exposure. The story was spreading, and I knew deep down that stories rarely stay quiet. I typed back, Yeah, it happened. He replied fast. Man, I'm sorry. After what she did, maybe this is karma. I stared at that word, karma. People like to use it as a blanket explanation, a way to comfort, or justify, or smooth over rough truths. But I didn't feel like karma was responsible. This wasn't cosmic justice. This was me. My choice. My action. My consequences. And for the first time, I felt afraid. Not afraid of being caught. but afraid of who I had allowed myself to become. Later that afternoon, I stepped outside and walked to the small cafe down the street, the one with the scratched wooden tables and the smell of cinnamon always lingering in the air. I needed space from my own house, from my own guilt. The barista nodded at me, recognizing me. I ordered a black coffee and sat in the corner booth. The seat was cold, but the familiar hum of conversation around me felt strangely comforting. I scrolled through my phone, trying not to search for anything related to her, but my fingers betrayed me. I checked her social media, private, then her cousin's. The post was still there, a blurry picture of her at the airport, sitting on a bench, not crying, but looking lost. Her luggage next to her passport clutched in her hands. And the caption, "Pray for my cousin. She was sent back last night. Visa issue. Please send good thoughts." I stared at that photo for a long time. It wasn't her fault. Not the visa, anyway. I closed my eyes, letting out a slow, shaky breath as guilt wrapped around my throat like a scarf pulled too tight. When I opened them, someone was sitting across from me. Hamza. I didn't even hear him come in. "You look like hell," he said softly. I forced a weak smile. "Thanks." He leaned forward, studying me in that serious way friends do when they sense something deeper is going on. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded, but something must have flickered in my eyes, because his expression changed. "Look, whatever happened between you two, whatever pain she caused, you don't deserve to carry all this weight alone." My throat tightened. He didn't know. He couldn't know. Still, his words hit harder than I expected. I swallowed and said, "Some things we do because we're hurt doesn't mean we feel good afterward." Hamza watched me carefully. "You didn't do anything crazy, right?" My heart skipped. For a moment, the room felt too warm, too loud, too close. But I kept my face calm, steady. "No?" I lied softly. "Nothing like that." He nodded, accepting it because friends want to believe you're better than your worst choices. We talked for another few minutes, but I barely heard a word. My mind was far away in that airport, in that document swap, in all the ways I had spiraled from a betrayed man into someone capable of destroying another person's dream. When Hamza left, I stayed behind, staring into the black surface of my coffee, seeing more of myself in that darkness than I wanted to. That night, I made a decision. I didn't know if it was the right one, or if it would make things worse. But I knew this. I had to face what I'd done, not to be forgiven, not to fix anything, not even to make peace with her, but because the longer you hide from the truth, the more power it has over you. And I was tired of being powerless to my own guilt, so I typed out a message to her. Simple, direct, heavy. "We need to talk." Before I could second-guess myself, I hit send. I didn't know what would come next, but for the first time in days, I knew I was ready to face it. Whatever it was. "You hesitated." My thumb hovered over the play button. I drew in a breath and pressed it. There was silence at first, a small inhale. Shaky, fragile. Then her voice, barely above a whisper. "I didn't cheat the way you think I did. Please, let me explain." And just like that, my heart, the one she'd hurt, the one I'd hardened into stone, cracked slightly. Not enough to break. Not enough to forgive. But enough to feel. I replayed the message once. Twice. A third time. Each time, something in her tone pulled at a thread I'd buried deep, a fragment of the old us. The version before everything fell apart. I messaged her back. Just 2 words. "Explain then." She replied almost instantly. "Can we talk?" Just one call. Just one. I didn't want to hear her voice again. Not directly. Not in real time. Not where her emotions might twist mine. So I sent, "No calls. Say it here." A long pause followed. I watched the typing indicator flicker on and off, like she kept starting and stopping, fighting with her own truth. 5 minutes passed. Then, a long message came through. I opened it slowly, bracing myself. "Yes, I met someone, but it wasn't cheating the way you think. I didn't sleep with him. I didn't love him. I was scared. I was overwhelmed. Everything was happening too fast. The move, the plans, your expectations. He wasn't someone I loved. He was someone who listened. He made a mistake, but I didn't throw our relationship away. I was going to tell you. I just waited too long. I sat back. My jaw clenched. A bitter laugh slipped out of me, one of those hollow, humorless ones that taste like regret. So, she admitted it. Confirmed the betrayal. Wrapped it up in pretty excuses. Fear, stress, confusion. Just talking. People don't break hearts accidentally. They always know what they're doing in the moment they choose someone else. But one sentence in her message caught my attention more than the rest. I didn't throw our relationship away. Because the truth was, I had. I was the one who swapped the documents. I was the one who let her walk into that airport blind. I was the one who watched her fall and didn't warn her. Suddenly, the room felt smaller. The air thicker. My chest tightened with something I hadn't felt in a long time. Shame. Not for what she did to me, but for what I did to her. Not because she didn't deserve consequences, but because revenge makes you think you're only delivering justice, when really, you're delivering pain. Pain that lingers. Pain that shapes people. Pain that echoes. I typed my response slowly, each word feeling heavier than the last. You still betrayed me. And I still hurt you back. Nothing we say can undo either of those things. She replied, I know. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know the truth. I'm sorry for everything. I stared at her message, long after the screen dimmed. Sorry. That tiny word, so soft, so fragile, carried an entire storm inside it. I didn't write back. Not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't trust what my heart might say if I let it speak. Instead, I set the phone aside, leaned back, and closed my eyes. The rain started soon after, soft at first, then steady, tapping against the window like fingers trying to wake me from a dream. But I wasn't dreaming. This was real. All of it. The betrayal, the revenge, the aftermath, and the unexpected truth that hurt just as much as the lie. For the first time since the airport, I wondered not whether I had won, but whether either of us had truly survived what we did to each other. The storm outside grew louder, and somewhere inside me, the storm began to quiet. The rain didn't stop that night. It kept tapping against the windows like a quiet reminder that storms don't only live outside. Sometimes they settle inside you too, in all the places you'd rather keep dry. I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the steady rhythm of water hitting glass. Funny how something so gentle can make you feel so unsettled. Her words, her voice message, her apology, they kept replaying, circling around my thoughts like moths fluttering around a dim lamp. Regret doesn't come all at once. It arrives in waves. Some small, some so strong they pull you under. And that night, I felt both. Around 2 a.m., I got up and walked into the kitchen. The tiles were cold under my feet, little anchors pulling me back into the present. I poured myself a glass of water and leaned on the counter. I caught my reflection in the dark window. My own eyes looked older, tired, worn by choices I couldn't undo. I whispered something to myself, soft, so soft I barely heard it. Was it worth it? The silence that followed felt heavier than any answer could have been. I sat down at the table, opened my laptop, and hovered the mouse over the folder where I had saved copies of her visa document. The original. The fake one. The one she never saw. Silence afterward. It all clung to my thoughts like humidity in the air. Thick and heavy. Impossible to shake off. I made coffee the way I always do. 2 spoons, no sugar, but it tasted different. Like guilt had seeped into the water overnight. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the steam rising from the cup. For the first time, I let myself wonder if I went too far. Not because she didn't deserve consequences, she did. But because revenge has a way of blurring lines until you can't tell what's justice and what's your own darkness looking for a doorway. My phone lit up again. Another message, another wound waiting to open. But this time, it wasn't from her. It was from her mother. A long message. One that started with my name, and that alone sent a cold ripple down my spine. I don't know what happened. She was so excited about the move, about your future. She won't tell us what went wrong. She won't even talk. I leaned back in the chair. Her mother's words felt heavier than anything my ex could have thrown at me. Parents, they never see the full picture. They only know the version of their child they want to believe in, the innocent, loving one. Not the one who sneaks around, lies, cheats, and cries only when consequences finally catch up. Still, reading a mother's worry always hits a place you don't expect. I typed a response, deleted it, typed again, deleted again. Eventually, I put the phone face down. Some things, there's no clean explanation for. Not without reopening wounds I had just barely stitched closed. Later that afternoon, I decided to step outside, get some air, maybe clear my head. The sun was bright, but not warm, one of those strange days where the light lies to you. I walked around the block, hands in my pockets, feeling the leftover tension threading through my chest. Each step felt like I was walking out of a fog I had created myself. As I turned the corner, I bumped into someone. Literally. A man staggered a bit, dropping the envelope he was holding. Papers scattered everywhere, fluttering into the street. "I'm so sorry," I said, immediately bending down to help. He laughed lightly, waving it off. "No harm done, brother. My fault. I wasn't watching where I was going." We picked up the papers together, and that's when I froze. One of the documents stamped. Official looked painfully familiar. A visa approval notice. I felt something shift inside me. Something uncomfortable. Something like God or karma tapping me on the shoulder. The man noticed me staring. "Yeah," he said proudly. "Finally got approved. Took me years. My wife and kids, they've been waiting for this moment." He smiled at the paper like it was gold. Like it was salvation. Like it was everything. I forced a smile back. "Congratulations, really. Thanks, man." He patted my shoulder. "Sometimes you gotta hold tight to what you love. Fight for it even. Life's too short to lose people over stupidity." His words landed harder than he intended. He had no idea he was talking to someone who had just destroyed someone else's future, not to save a family, but to punish a heart. He walked off, humming to himself, and there I stood, holding that strange ache in my chest, feeling something shift inside me, slowly but undeniably. I realized then that revenge doesn't just end. It echoes, even after the act is done, even after the tears dry, even when the person you punished is far away. It echoes inside you, until you're brave enough to face what you've become. I walked back home slower than before, each step heavy with new awareness. I wasn't the same man who discovered her cheating. I wasn't the same man who switched the documents in anger. But I also wasn't the man I wanted to be. Not yet. That truth, it settled deep inside me, and I knew this story wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. That evening, the sky looked heavier than usual. Clouds hung low, stretching across the horizon like thick blankets someone forgot to fold. It was the kind of weather that makes you introspective, like the universe is quietly asking, "You done running yet?" I settled onto the couch, phone on the coffee table, trying to pretend I wasn't waiting for it to buzz again. But I was. Guilt has a strange rhythm it knocks in places you thought were quiet. Every shadow in the room felt sharper. Every breath felt a little heavier. Around 9 p.m., the phone lit up. I stared at it, dread and curiosity twisting into one sharp knot in my stomach. Her name. No profile picture anymore. Just her name floating on the screen like a ghost. This time, she sent a voice message, 10 seconds long. "Sir," she said, turning to me, eyes wide with fear. Tell them it's real. Please, tell them." I swallowed, looked at her, and for a painful moment, I almost did. But the officer cut in, firm but kind. "Ma'am, the system shows this reference number doesn't exist." Her legs weakened. She grabbed the counter for support. I don't understand. Please check again. Please." Her desperation echoed against the cold airport tiles. The officer tried to guide her aside, explaining procedures, necessary steps, what would happen next. But Mara wasn't listening. She looked only at me. At me? And in her eyes, I saw everything: fear, confusion, betrayal, heartbreak, realization. "Did you know about this?" she whispered. Her voice trembled like a fragile piece of glass. I held her gaze. My silence was an answer. The moment stretched between us like a slow, devastating tear. And then she whispered one word, a word that cracked something deep inside me. Why? I don't know how long I sat there, on that cold airport bench, watching the automatic doors slide shut behind her, again and again, as if the universe was replaying the moment just to test me. Some people say closure comes with a loud bang, a final fight, a dramatic confession, a door slamming. But mine came in the quiet. The kind of quiet that settles deep into your bones. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling lights, feeling the weight of what I'd done pressing against my chest. Was it justice? Or was it cruelty dressed up as revenge? I remembered her face, that mix of shock, confusion, and betrayal when the officer told her the visa was invalid. It was the same expression I had worn the day I discovered her cheating. Life really does come full circle, just not in the way you expect. I got up slowly, my legs stiff. The loudspeaker echoed overhead final boarding calls, travelers announcing reunions, kids laughing, wheels rolling on tile. Everyone was moving somewhere. Everyone had a destination. Except her. And, strangely, except me. I walked outside into the cool night air, letting the cold slap some sense into me. The city lights flickered in the distance, and something in me felt both lighter and heavier. Lighter, because the betrayal was behind me. Heavier, because revenge always leaves a bruise, not on the person you hit, but on your own soul. As I walked toward the taxi stand, my phone buzzed. A message from her roommate. She's blaming everyone except herself. She still doesn't know you switched the documents. I froze. My chest tightened with something sharp, not guilt, but responsibility. Like I was holding a secret that could burn me alive if I wasn't careful. I typed back slowly. Don't tell her. Let her think whatever she needs to. Because the truth wasn't for her. It was for me, and I had already lived through it. The taxi pulled up. I climbed in, resting my forehead against the window as the city flashed by neon signs, empty sidewalks, shadows stretching long and thin. I thought the ride home would feel victorious. It didn't. It felt like sitting in the aftermath of a storm, the wind gone, but the broken branches still scattered around your feet. And then, something unexpected happened. My phone buzzed again. A different message. A different tone. It was from her. Short. Shaky. Almost like she typed it through tears. Why didn't you fight for me? I closed my eyes. There it was, the question she should have asked months ago. Before the lies. Before the cheating. Before I turned into the man who could dismantle her future with a single swap of papers, I let the message sit there. Unread. Unanswered. Because some truths hurt more when spoken, and some wounds don't close just because someone finally asks the right question. When I reached home, I went straight to the mirror, stood there, stared at myself. I didn't see the man she broke. I didn't see the man who broke her back. I saw someone in between, someone learning what power feels like, and learning how dangerous it can be. My reflection whispered something to me that night. Something small but sharp. You can win and still lose yourself. I exhaled deeply and turned away from the mirror. Tonight I wasn't looking for victory, only peace. And peace is a long road, one I had just stepped onto. The next morning, I woke earlier than usual. Not because I slept well, I didn't. I kept replaying everything in my mind. Her face at the airport, the message she sent later, But I felt something deeper. The sharp sting of humiliation. The bruise of being lied to. The ache of investing in a future someone else didn't treasure. And then an idea emerged. Quietly, calmly, like a whisper from somewhere deep. I had access. I had knowledge. And I knew every detail of her visa process, the one she depended on me for, trusted me with. She had placed her future in my hands. And she had broken mine. I didn't want to destroy her life. No, that wasn't the intention. I just wanted her to feel something. To understand the weight of what she'd done. To realize betrayal has consequences, not out of petty anger, but out of justice. You can hurt someone, yes, but you cannot expect your life to go untouched afterward. One afternoon, while she was in the shower, I sat at the dining table staring at her application folder, the neatly arranged documents she'd proudly assembled. Her passport, her work records, her medical forms, all of it in perfect order. She'd worked hard for it. I knew that. But she'd also risked it all for moments with a man who wasn't me. I opened the folder slowly. My hands didn't shake. My breath didn't quicken. I was painfully calm. Maybe too calm? I pulled out the approval letter, the one from her last stage of processing. I read it 3 times. The official seal, the reference number, the stamped signature. Then I placed it aside and took out another sheet of paper. A harmless-looking form I'd seen dozens of times. A sample sheet used for training new staff. Almost identical to the real thing, except it wasn't functional. It wasn't registered. It wasn't valid. To anyone else, it looked perfectly official. To the immigration system, it was a ghost, a dead, useless piece of paper. I slid the real approval back into my drawer, slipped the sample into her folder, aligned the edges neatly, closed it. It was not violence, not rash, not emotional. It was deliberate. A quiet decision made by a man who had run out of ways to protect his own heart. When she came out of the shower, hair damp, smelling of sandalwood soap, she walked over and hugged me from behind. "I'm trying," she whispered into my back. "I really am." I didn't push her away, didn't respond either. I just sat there, letting her arms fall around me, not returning the warmth. Weeks passed. Her interviews progressed. Her excitement grew. She checked her folder every night, flipping through the pages, humming softly, unaware that the fate of her dream had already shifted. I watched her pack small things, scarves, books, her favorite mug. She talked about the apartment we'd get overseas, the cafe she wanted to visit, the parks she wanted to walk in. Sometimes she'd look up at me with such hope it almost hurt to breathe. But each time I remembered the messages from Rafael, remembered her going to him while promising a life with me, remembered how she cried. Not because she betrayed me, but because she got caught. The coldness returned. And then the day finally came. Airport. Early morning. Soft sunlight creeping over the runway. She held my hand, squeezing it, smiling with nervous excitement. "This is it," she whispered. Her voice was so full of dream, and part of me, the old part, almost wanted to stop everything. Almost. But betrayal is a wound that changes a man. At the immigration counter, she handed over her documents, head high, smiling politely. I stood behind her, hands in my pockets, eyes steady. The officer scanned the document, posed, frowned. He checked the number again, scanned it once more. Mara's smile faded. Her fingers trembled slightly. The officer called another staff member over. They whispered. They checked. They typed. Then he looked up at her with that heavy, apologetic expression I'd seen too many times in my career. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but this document isn't valid." She froze. Just froze. "What?" she whispered. No, that's impossible. It's the original. It's the one I submitted. It's real. It has to be real." Her voice cracked with panic. People were starting to look. Her breaths turned sharp, shallow. "A friend doesn't send you messages about last night," I said. My voice wasn't angry. It was tired, deeply tired. "A friend doesn't ask you to meet again." Her hand twitched a tiny, helpless movement. "I swear it's nothing serious," she murmured. I let out a bitter laugh, quiet, subdued, but heavy with disbelief. "Mara, you saved him with a heart emoji." She wrapped her arms around herself. "It's complicated." That word complicated hit me harder than any confession could have. Because complicated didn't mean innocent. It didn't even mean confused. It meant true. "It was just a mistake," she said, voice wavering. "It happened once. Just one time. And I swear I was going to tell you. I swear." "Last night," I repeated softly. The message said, "Last night." Her silence confirmed everything. I felt my throat tighten, but no tears came. Not yet. Pain has a way of freezing before it melts. "How long?" I asked. Not long, she whispered. A few weeks. A few weeks. While we were planning our future. While we were mapping out a life in another country. While I was handling her documents, her visa forms, her dreams. You cheated on me while planning to move abroad with me? I breathed out slowly. Tears filled her eyes. I didn't mean for it to happen. No one ever means for it to happen, I said. But it still does. She reached for my hand instinctively, desperately, but I pulled back. For the first time in years, her touch felt unfamiliar. Wrong. I'm sorry, she whispered. I messed up. I know I did. But don't leave me. Please. We can fix this. Her voice broke. Her eyes pleaded. Her hands shook. And a part of me, the part that loved her, almost gave in. Almost. But then the image of her with another man filled my mind. And something inside me hardened like cooling metal. I stood up slowly, breathing deep. I need time, I said flatly. She nodded, wiping her cheeks, trying to control her trembling. But in that moment, something else happened. Something small, but unforgettable. Her phone buzzed again right between us. A new message. From him? Can't wait to see you again. Her breath hitched. Her hands flew to her mouth. And for the first time, I saw guilt and fear and something like panic flicker across her face. I walked out of the room without saying another word. But as I stood in the hallway, gripping the door frame to steady myself, a cold thought slipped into my mind. Mara had betrayed me in the most intimate way, but she still expected me to carry her into a new life abroad, a life she didn't even stay faithful for. And slowly, painfully, dangerously, a seed of revenge took root in my chest. Not violent, not dramatic, not loud, but sharp, clear, intentional. A form of justice only someone with my job and my access could deliver. The days that followed were quiet, painfully quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the sort that falls over a house after an argument, heavy and stale like air that refuses to move. Mara tried to act normal. She still made tea in the mornings. Still left notes on the fridge reminding me to eat. Still hummed sometimes, though the tune sounded unsure, like she wasn't sure if she had the right to fill the silence anymore. I kept my distance, not out of cruelty, but because every time I looked at her, something inside me twisted. A mixture of love and betrayal and a hollow ache that felt too deep to touch. I didn't confront her again, didn't shout, didn't accuse. I simply observed, watched. And the more I watched, the clearer the truth became. Mara wasn't just guilty. She was still involved. Late-night messages, sudden excuses, quick showers, changed clothes before stepping out for milk, and a nervousness around her phone so sharp it was practically a confession. Every sign pointed in the same direction. She was still seeing him, but she was also still asking me gently, almost timidly, about our moving plans. Did your colleague approve the final documents? Do you think my visa will come back next month? I can't believe we're so close. Her voice would soften when she said we, as if she wanted to re-knit something torn. But there was no we anymore. Not the way she imagined. At night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling something dark and cold growing inside me. Not hatred. No, I didn't hate Mara. I never did. Not unhappy. Not angry. Just somewhere else entirely. Maybe with someone else entirely. A few days later, the real shift happened. I was at work when I received a text from her. Hey love, I'll be late tonight. Last-minute tutoring. Don't wait up. It wasn't the message itself she'd stayed late before. It was the timing. She sent it at 4:37 p.m. Her shift ended at 5. Most people don't know their shift will run late 20 minutes before it ends. Unless they already planned it. That night, when she came home past 10, smelling faintly of cologne that definitely wasn't mine, she kissed my forehead, took a shower, and slipped into bed beside me like nothing was wrong. Long day? I asked gently. The longest, she mumbled. I nodded and didn't push further, letting my hand rest on her back as she drifted into sleep. But my heart sank deeper, like a stone dropped into water. I wanted to believe her. I truly did. But pieces weren't fitting anymore. The puzzle of our life, once so smooth and predictable, had started showing gaps, strange shapes, missing connections. And deep down, in a place I didn't want to acknowledge, I sensed something was coming. Something big. Something that would change everything. All it needed was one moment, one undeniable piece of proof to shatter the illusion I'd been holding on to. And that moment, it arrived sooner than I expected. The night I finally learned the truth. It started out ordinary. Almost painfully ordinary. It was a Friday, the end of a long week. The kind where your shoulders feel heavy and your mind is 30 seconds slower than usual. The sky was pale and cloudy, and the early evening breeze carried the faint smell of roasted peanuts from the street vendor downstairs. I came home around 6. The lights in the apartment were off, but I wasn't surprised. Mara usually worked late on Fridays. I set my bag down, kicked off my shoes, and started heating leftovers from chicken curry she'd made earlier that week. The kind of meal that feels like a warm blanket on a tired day. Around 6:45, I heard her phone buzz from the bedroom. It wasn't unusual, except her phone was normally in her bag, not lying face up on the dresser. I walked toward the bedroom slowly, unhurried. I wasn't looking for anything. I didn't suspect an explosion was about to go off. I was only curious. The screen lit up again. 2 messages this time. The sender name wasn't hidden, wasn't coded, wasn't disguised. Rafael. Just that. But my stomach dropped. Rafael. Not initials. Not a coworker. Not a parent from her tutoring class. A man she'd saved with a heart emoji. Another buzz. Another message. I didn't touch the phone, didn't pick it up. I just read what appeared on the lock screen. Can't stop thinking about last night. Same time tonight? My heart didn't break. It didn't crack loudly or dramatically. It simply folded into itself, quietly and steadily, like a collapsing sheet of paper. I sat down on her side of the bed, staring at the phone until the light faded. The room suddenly felt unfamiliar, as if someone had rearranged the air itself. Everything I thought I knew, the comfort, the trust, the future we were building slid out from beneath me. I don't know how long I sat like that. Hands trembling slightly, mind blank, chest hollow. When I finally stood, my legs felt numb. At 7:20, the door opened. Soft steps, her familiar humming. She always hummed when she felt good. I froze. She walked into the bedroom and spotted me sitting on the edge of the bed. "Oh," she said lightly, brushing hair from her forehead. "You scared me. Why are you sitting in the dark?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. Her eyes skimmed the room from me to her phone, to my expression. And just like that, her smile flickered out. "Did something happen?" she whispered. I lifted my finger and pointed toward the phone. Nothing dramatic, nothing accusatory. Just a small, silent gesture. Her breath caught. I heard it the tiniest, sharpest inhale. "Mara," I said quietly, voice unsteady. "Who is Rafael?" She didn't answer. Didn't move. Her face went pale. The kind of pale that sinks deep beneath the skin. "Mara," I tried again. "Who is he?" She closed her eyes for a moment, as if gathering strength, as if rehearsing her lines. When she opened them, her voice came out soft, too soft. "He's just a friend from work." Like how she started staying late after her tutoring sessions. Like how she suddenly cared more about her appearance before leaving home new lipstick shades, perfectly ironed clothes, perfume sprayed with just a bit too much intention. Like how her phone, once left casually on the table, now stayed face down, always in silent mode. But back then, I was a man in love. Making excuses the way people in love often do. "It's just work," I told myself. "She's just tired. She's just stressed about the move." I never imagined those little changes were the beginning of the end. I never imagined they would lead me to a decision that would haunt me, and in some ways, define me. But life has a way of hiding storms behind soft breezes, and mine was already beginning to shift. I just didn't feel the wind yet. At this point in the story, the narrator's life is peaceful, full of warmth and connection, a perfect foundation for the emotional break to come. I think the first real crack appeared one Thursday evening, the kind that seems insignificant until you look back and realize it was the doorway to everything that followed. I remember the rain tapping softly against our windows, the kind of gentle drizzle that makes the city look blurred around the edges. I was sitting on the couch with my laptop open, reviewing a few visa applications I'd brought home. I liked doing that. It gave me a strange sense of calm, almost like solving a puzzle. The apartment smelled like ginger tea. Mara always brewed a pot around that time, claiming it helped her sleep. She walked in around 9:15 that night. Not very late, but later than usual. Her hair, normally curled at the ends from the humidity, was too neat. Her blouse was tucked perfectly, no signs of a long day with kids. And when she saw me on the couch, something flickered across her face just for a second. Surprise, then tension, then the gentle smile she always wore when she wanted to soften a moment. "You're still up," she said, slipping off her shoes. Her voice was too sweet, too careful. "Yeah," I replied, pretending not to notice the way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, a gesture she usually made only when she was nervous. "Just finishing some work." "Oh, that's good." She walked to the kitchen. "I'm exhausted. Those kids nearly broke me today." She laughed, but the sound was thin, stretched like plastic. Something inside me nudged a quiet, almost imperceptible tug, but I pushed it away. Later that night, while she showered, her phone buzzed twice on the nightstand. Not loud, just a soft vibration against the wood. Normally, I would have ignored it. But that tug in my chest? It didn't let me. I glanced at the screen. Just a name I didn't recognize. 2 initials. RK. Nothing else. When Mara walked out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel, steam trailing behind her, she saw me sitting on the bed, her phone exactly where she left it. But she hurried to it. Too quickly, almost protectively. "You okay?" she asked, sliding the phone under the pillow with what she thought was a natural movement. "Yeah," I said. "Just tired." She smiled, kissed my cheek, told me good night. But I stared at the ceiling for a long time after she fell asleep, listening to the sound of her breathing, slow, steady, peaceful. Meanwhile, mine was uneven. RK. Who was that? By morning, I convinced myself it was nothing. A student's parent, maybe? A coworker? I didn't want to be that man, the jealous type, the suspicious type. I'd seen what insecurity did to other couples. I promised myself I would never become someone who checked phones or demanded explanations for every late night. But the seed had been planted, and seeds, even tiny ones, have a way of growing when left in the dark. The next clue came a week later. Mara had started dressing differently, not extravagantly, just intentionally. A little more perfume, a new pair of earrings she claimed she'd had for a long time, lipstick in shades I'd never seen before. "Trying something new," she said with a shrug when I noticed, but her eyes darted away, as if she didn't want me looking too closely. One evening, I came home earlier than usual. The apartment was quiet, the soft yellow lamp by the bookshelf still on. I walked into the bedroom and noticed her makeup bag open on the bed. A red lipstick lay uncapped beside it, deep, bold, a color she only wore for special occasions. But she wasn't home yet. When she finally walked in an hour later, her lips were bare. No color, no hint of that deep red. I didn't ask about it, didn't point out what I saw, but the silence between us stretched a little longer that night. She sat on the edge of the bed, brushing her hair, each stroke slow, thoughtful. And I lay there, pretending to read, but actually watching her reflection in the mirror. She looked distant. The day she was deported, she looked back at me like she still couldn't understand how everything had gone so wrong. I remember that moment with a clarity that still knots my stomach. The airport lights were harsh, bright, almost unforgiving, pouring down on the two of us like a spotlight in a theater I never asked to be part of. She stood just beyond the security barrier, clutching that little blue suitcase she loved so much, the one covered in stickers from cities we dreamed we'd visit together. When the immigration officer told her the visa was invalid, her face crumpled in confusion first, then fear, then something close to betrayal. Not because she understood what had happened, not yet, But because she turned to me, expecting I'd fix it, expecting I'd protect her, and I just stood there, silent, breathing slow, feeling my heart beat like a drum beneath a blanket. I'd spent so many nights imagining how I'd confront her, how I'd face the truth of what she'd done to me. But nothing prepared me for the weight of watching her walk away under armed escort. Head bowed, hands trembling around that frayed suitcase handle. That was the moment I realized revenge doesn't give you satisfaction. It only gives you silence wide, heavy, echoing silence. And yet, a part of me still whispered, she earned this. But another part, the part that still remembered the smell of her coconut shampoo on my pillow, whispered, so did you? Before everything unraveled, life with Mara was simple, maybe too simple. We lived in a small apartment above a bakery, and every morning at around 6:30, the smell of freshly baked bread rose up through our window, mixing with the warmth of early sunlight. I used to joke that the scent alone could wake me up before my alarm did. Mara worked as a language tutor, mostly teaching English to kids preparing for study abroad programs. She had this soft voice, the kind that could calm a crying child or soften an argument before it truly began. She spoke in gentle rhythms, never in a hurry, never raising her tone. Whenever she explained something, she would tilt her head a little to the side, as if she wasn't just teaching but listening to the whisper of her own thoughts. I loved that about her. Or maybe I just thought I did. I was a junior administrator in a visa processing office. Nothing glamorous, nothing too demanding, just the kind of job that trains you to notice small details, signatures that don't match, stamps that aren't aligned, dates that feel off. I never imagined that skill would become a weapon one day. Our evenings were quiet. Sometimes we'd eat takeout on the balcony, cheap noodles or fried rice, the kind of food that tastes better when eaten straight out of the box. Other nights we'd sit on the couch, her legs draped over mine, watching travel vlogs on YouTube. That'll be us soon, she'd say, pointing to the screen. A couple walking through cobblestone streets, sharing pastries in a French cafe, laughing as though the world was a soft place. We'll get there, I'd promise. And I meant it. We'd been planning to move abroad for almost a year. Canada, that was the dream. Clean streets, fresh air, better opportunities. We applied for visas together, filled in every form, double-checked every detail. She used to squeeze my shoulder and say, "You're the smart one, baby. I trust you with the paperwork." I trusted her with my life. Funny how uneven trust can be. On Saturdays, we cleaned the apartment together. She'd put music on old 90 Seconds love songs, the kind you hum without realizing. She sang softly while wiping the counters, always dancing just a little, the hem of her t-shirt brushing against her hips. I'd pretend to be annoyed when she left a damp cloth on the table, but secretly, I liked seeing her move around the space like she belonged to us. We weren't perfect. No couple truly is. But I thought we were stable, safe, moving towards something better. I thought I knew who she was when she leaned into my chest at night, whispering things like, "Promise we'll never lie to each other." And I did promise. I just didn't know I'd be the only one keeping it. The truth is, Mara had layers I never saw. Or maybe layers I refused to see. Looking back, there were moments tiny, almost invisible cracks. But at the time, they felt harmless.